All right, like James Harden's first trip to a gentleman's club, this is going to be the start of a long and beautiful relationship. Welcome to the first of what we're hoping are many episodes of Three in the Key, brought to you by FineBet, a Pop Dust company. Now, let me break it down for you. Me and two of the coolest dudes in sports journalism break down the NBA, from matchups to social media shade to fashion. Each one of us brings our own experience to the league, and we also bring three distinct perspectives to look at all angles of the association. Now let's get you introduced to the boys, Sandeep and Henry Curry, aka Henny Curry. Sandeep, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
What's up, man? How you guys doing? Happy to be here. I'm happy to be a part of Three in the Key. But yeah, my name's Henry Curry. My socials down there. You can find me on Twitter and anywhere. I'm also a sports journalist, just like you guys. You know, an honorary member of AAJA. And yeah, just ready to talk some NBA basketball because the season's coming up. There's about to be some crazy things. There's already some dramatic stuff going on, you know, with the whole James Harden, Kyrie, and everything else in between. But yeah, happy to be here.
What's going on, y'all? My name is Sandeep. Happy to be here with you guys, Henry and Dan. Lake Show till I die. We're going to repeat this year. RIP Kobe. Let's get it.
All right. Now, for the uninitiated, AAJA is the Asian American Journalists Association. Henry is not Asian, but he is one for the culture. So we have taken him in and we've kind of accepted him. But let's get to the NBA headlines first. Hardin watch. We were supposed to be looking at who was going to trade for him, but instead we retreated to something so much better. I mean, we got Hardin in the preseason making his debut, and he's looking like your uncle at a family barbecue, looking like he's been eating really nice this offseason. I mean, look at that. Look at this belt line.
You've been eating good.
It is beautiful. It's just
Magic City Wings. It's the Magic City Wings.
I don't know if people are editing that, but every time I see it, he looks like he gets bigger, like each photo.
No filter.
No, for real.
I mean, hey, those wings they served at Magic City, apparently they're really good. But so we have four different teams that are actually looking to trade for Harden or rumored to be trading for Harden, right? So we have Brooklyn, Philadelphia, the Bucks, and the Heat. Now, Brooklyn, they have Spencer Dinwiddie, Karis LeVert, Jared Allen to give up. Philadelphia's got 4 first-round draft picks in the next 4 years to play with. Maybe Ben Simmons gets thrown in there. We're not sure yet, but they have a lot of assets to be going through. And then we have the Bucks, a couple first rounders to play with. Brook Lopez, Chris Middleton has big contracts that can match up. And then we have the Heat, who have Kelly Olynyk and Andre Iguodala, who also have gigantic contracts that can be thrown in. And throwing in Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson could give Houston pretty good building points. And then they have the 2022, 2024, and 2025 first rounders to throw in as well. So guys, I have to ask you first, you Sandeep, where is the best place for Harden to go?
So I actually wrote a story about this on the FineBet site. You guys should check it out. From the start, my best offer and the team I thought he was going to go to was Philly. For the obvious reasons being Daryl Morey, former Houston GM, is now president of basketball ops in Philly. So that's just it's on the writing is on the wall with that one. In the beginning, I said Ben Simmons would be the best trade asset in that deal. Daryl Morey obviously recently came out and said that he's not trading Ben Simmons. He sees him in the future. Whether that's smoke or not, that remains to be seen because it could happen at any time. It's a cold business in the NBA, as we all know. But as I was telling you guys, does that mean maybe he said Ben Simmons is off the table, but he didn't say nothing about Joel Embiid. So is Embiid the guy that maybe is going to go out? And I'm saying it's because, look, Embiid is the better player. I think we can all agree on that, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the best big men in the game, two-way player. He's an anchor of your defense, whatever team he's on. But he's been a little injury prone. He's not as explosive as you'd like a big man to be. He's kind of slow getting up and down the court. So for that reason, centers, well, you can't get another center who gives you that production that Embiid does, especially on the offensive end. But you can get someone that can get you boards, that can block shots, catch lobs, and run the floor. And they already have a guy like that in Dwight Howard, who's their backup center right now. You pair Harden with a Ben Simmons, I think that could be like a deadly combo. So I'm sticking to Philly. I think Philly is going to be where he's going to end up.
Yeah, you mentioned that with Harden and like it might be Embiid that actually gets shipped off into Houston. How do you think that would play out with their current center right now, DeMarcus Cousins? You know, like they just signed Cousins, they got John Wall there. You got two big lumbering big guys. How do you think that works out for them if they do agree to make that trade?
Yeah, that's something I thought about too. I'm like, it's like they just signed Boogie to like a 1-year deal, and that's, I guess, the good thing is it's only a 1-year deal. But if you do acquire Joel Embiid, like he's for sure got to be starting, and then Boogie, I don't know if he'd be okay taking a backseat. I'm sure he came to that team knowing he's going to be the starting center from the jump. Do you play them together? I mean, Boogie and AD played together. I know one was a power forward and one was a setter, but imagine that two big lineup. Like that's like it could be good and bad, you know. So, but if Embiid is on the table in the trade, like I'd be surprised if Houston passed up on that.
Gotcha. Now Henry, where do you think would be the best place for Harden?
Honestly, I was talking about this with some of my other colleagues. I think James Harden needs to stay in Houston because the Rockets are doing everything. They've been catering to him his whole career ever since he landed in Houston, and now like he's just become a cancer to the team. Like he has John Wall. Okay, he doesn't have the same John Wall, you know, the same perennial all-star that we know. But he has DeMarcus Cousins, he has John Wall, he has Christian Wood. He has the pieces that were missing from last year. Because last year that small ball got exposed by your guys' Lakers. But now, like, they're not going to run any small ball. PJ Tucker is mainly coming off the bench. They acquired the right assets to surround Harden, but now Harden he's being a diva in himself, you know. And I don't think, honestly, anywhere Harden goes is not good for the team. But anywhere, like the best place for Harden to be is Houston, because Houston, no matter what, is going to cater to what Harden wants. And I don't think, you know, trading away Joel Embiid in the Sixers end would be a good part. Would be because I really do believe the Sixers are relevant to this day, at least for the past 8 years or so, because of Joel Embiid. Like he started the whole trust the process movement. Like he's the reason why, you know, Philly fans are looking forward to, you know, Philly basketball. Ben Simmons, you know, he can't shoot. He can't. There's a lot of, you know, holes to his game. So like, just seeing
all team defense. Hey, first team all defense though. First team all defense.
James Harden paired up with Ben Simmons. I'm like, how is that gonna work? You know, like
how is that gonna be lethal?
You see, but like you would think that with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, right? Because you have the point guard position filled, and then you have the center position filled, which, you know, that goes for a pretty good you know, pick and roll type of game. But James Harden is mainly an ISO player. I don't think there's going to be a lot of pick and rolls between those two, because that's where he takes away, you know, possessions from other players or other developing players. Tobias Harris, he's like one of their leading scorers from the team. So I can see his points per game going down, because James Harden does not average 35 points a game by, you know, sharing the ball. And we all know that.
But can you think about this? Like Harden's an elite playmaker, and so is Ben Simmons. You know, you imagine a starting lineup with like Harden, Danny Green, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, and like Dwight Howard. You got shooting and spacing around Dwight. You know, like I think about like the pick and roll. Like if Harden and Simmons run that pick and roll, and Simmons is the guy rolling to the basket, it's like that's either a lob going up to Dwight. You got Danny Green and Tobias Harris as your shooters, or Ben Simmons can just finish it himself because he's a good ass finisher. You know, so I think the options there, like with those two, it's just Ben Simmons off the ball, like he's going to be limited, right, because he can't shoot. It's always going to be a concern unless he's at least confident to take the shot. But I think the long term, just because Ben Simmons can stay healthier than a Joel Embiid can, like I think you can find center production. There's always centers looking for contracts, especially like on a minimum, you know.
So let's say Joel Embiid, you know, he's able to stay completely healthy throughout a whole season. Would you guys prefer a duo of Ben Simmons and James Harden, or a Joel Embiid James Harden duo if Joel Embiid can stay healthy?
That's a great question, because I mean, we've seen what he can do with another ball handler in the offense these last couple of years with James Harden, or with Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul. But I mean, you're going to get, like, we've seen that before, and it works to a certain extent. But if you're looking to win a championship, which, you know, everybody should be, I'm not sure that combination really works. So like, we already know kind of what the ceiling is with James Harden with another ball handler. To see James Harden play with like a really, really good big, that would be really interesting. And I think that an inside out game, even though, you know, Embiid could take up the middle a little bit too much, I think it could be an interesting thing to watch him play at a slower pace and see if he can still be as efficient as he has been the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think if it's a good point. We haven't seen Harden play with an elite big man yet. He's always been around perimeter and guard driven guard players. So we got to see what that looks like, and this could be the chance. But we can also see that right now, right, with Boogie now on the Rockets. But I think with like a Simmons too, you get the ability to play an up tempo pace, and the Rockets have kind of already played that over the past few years with Harden. Even when Chris Paul was there, when Westbrook was there, they like to go up and down, get the threes. And if Simmons is your guy bringing the ball up in transition, like you got, like I said, Harden, you got whether it's Seth and Danny Green or Tobias on there, and Dwight as your big running, like that could be a really good team. And then in the half court, I just use Ben Simmons in a lot of screen action, and have him kind of play off the ball, run the pick and rolls. Like I said, I feel like it's going to open up the offense a lot more.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Sandeep, since you wrote on it. Where would be the best place fantasy-wise for Harden to land?
Fantasy-wise, definitely not Brooklyn. He's going to shoot like 10 shots a game and maybe like 15 free throws, but like the volume is not going to be there. And if they're blowing teams out, like he's not even going to play fourth quarters, so definitely not Brooklyn. It's going to be like, Philly, even Miami, like he'd be high usage, right? Because he's going to be their closer. Jimmy Butler he's an unselfish guy. He was a closer on this team because on this past year's team because he was a veteran and he has experience and was a guy who could best create his own shot. But, I'm sure he would have no problem with Harden being their closer. He knows Harden's about that life and what he brings to the table. So I think he could thrive there as well.
Gotcha. Now let's move on from James Harden and let's talk about Kawhi Leonard and potential tampering during last year's negotiations for his contract. Johnny Wilkes, allegedly close to Kawhi and friend to Dennis Robertson, Kawhi's uncle, is suing Jerry West for $2.5 million for guiding Kawhi to the Clippers. There's a voicemail that's allegedly Jerry West calling his former team, the Lakers, a quote-unquote shit show, and appreciate what Wilkes has done, and trying to coordinate a dinner. I'm looking at this situation from the outside. Kawhi says he has nothing to do with it, obviously, for whatever reason. Right. So tampering, we don't know the extent of the tampering, but potentially we're looking at maybe $5 million in fines to West, draft picks taken away, a contract voided, maybe Kawhi suspended. These are real things that can happen if Jerry West is found to have, any sort of impropriety in these contract talks. So, but listening to the voicemail and everything like that, is it really going to be that bad? I'll ask you, Henry.
I think it's a tough one because this is coming from the logo himself, and then for him to call the Lakers a shit show. First of all, that's a bad look. For, a former Laker legend, to call the Laker organization a shit show. Like, I understand where he's coming from, but I don't know if you can do that, right? And then, like, that's just going to be so many implications, with the fines. And yeah, Kawhi probably being suspended and Jerry West's image too throughout the league, because he was a very respectable person, not just as a player, but everything he's done in the front office too. But now there's just if you have a stain in your image and in your resume, then that goes a long way, going forward. I'm not going to compare him to Donald Sterling with that whole Clipper situation, but it's just that just goes to show, when something surfaces and it's pretty bad, the implications moving forward can also be pretty bad. So I honestly believe that any, consequence or situation that might come about, especially for Jerry West, he's probably deserving of it. I think deserving of it is kind of harsh, but Sandeep, give me your thoughts.
The fact that the Clippers are even in this ordeal right now, just for one, says a lot, right? Because how did you get yourself to this place? And Kawhi, saying he doesn't know anything about it is, it's a lie. Of course, we'd all say that if we were in this place, right? You have to. But this is the same Kawhi Leonard that supposedly asked the Lakers for a private jet when he was in free agency, right? And he was considering what team to sign with. There was reports that he asked them for a private jet, and he wanted part ownership stake, like a 1 or 2% ownership stake in the team. And then we saw the story from The Athletic maybe like a month ago, where Clippers players were saying that Kawhi and then also Paul George, but they were receiving special treatment throughout last season, where Kawhi was driving up from San Diego or whatever before games, and they were calling the shots on practice and this and that when they wanted to sit out games. So you hear all this stuff, and it's like, how can I give Kawhi and the Clippers the benefit of the doubt when they are the ones that in fact have been a shit show over the past season? It's really them that have been they've been on all the headlines for the wrong reasons. Because last I checked, the Lakers won the championship and had the best offseason of any team. And they re-upped, and they swooped a guy from the Clippers too. He left because that organization was a shit show. Yeah. And Jerry West saying that about the Lakers is because the man's a little salty because they just want a chip, and he thought that team that he put together last season with the guys he added was going to get it done. And so now look, if I were him and I could get Kawhi Leonard, it was going to cost me $2.5 million. Sure, I might be thinking about it too, because this Kawhi's a top 5 player in the game. He was coming off a championship season with the Raptors, and it's like you want to compete with this super team on the other, that dominates your city and has been dominating the city since the Clippers and Lakers were in town, and if you can get Kawhi, you got to do what you got to do. So I think when this story blows up and the truth comes out, like I feel like Clippers they're gonna blow up like big time.
Oh, wow. We hear it here first. Sandeep thinks the Clippers are going to get what's coming to them. Yeah, after all the crap they talked last season, it's kind of it was very interesting. Let's just say that it happened to come out this coming up year. But let's move on. We're on to the next, which is the week ahead. We get to look at the week ahead now because the NBA season officially starts on the 22nd. I'm so pumped up for the NBA to come back. I mean, the first day of matchups, we already have Clippers-Lakers, and we also have the Warriors versus the Nets, some premier matchups to start off the NBA season. So with the Clippers-Lakers, they took their competition from the season to the offseason. The Lakers poached Sixth Man of the Year Montrezl Harrell. They got Wes Matthews, Marc Gasol, re-signed Markieff Morris, and KCP, traded for Dennis Schroeder. And the Clippers got Serge Ibaka, Marcus Morris, and Luke Kennard. I'm really excited to see this matchup. What do you guys think is going to happen this game? Sandeep, I'm not going to start with you because I know what you're going to say. But Henry, from a outside perspective, how does this game look to you?
I'm about to announce that right now. I'm not the biggest Laker fan, but I'm going to say it right now. Rob Pelinka, he already deserves GM of the year because the Lakers had the best offseason in such a short amount of time. It was honestly unbelievable to see because the requirements they got, I think we're losing Rondo was huge, right? Because Rondo played a huge role, in your finals victory. But every other asset that I got acquired, losing Dwight, losing JaVale, these were all, key players that played key roles in that championship run. So when you get rid of players like that, or, that are 1-year contracts or expiring contracts and whatnot, you're put in a difficult situation, but the Lakers just became the destination to be there, to want to be there, right? So that's why you attracted players like Schroeder, Marcus Gasol. Montrezl Harrell was the biggest surprise, I would say. But I think the biggest backstab for the Lakers, going to your, highway rival and stuff.
Hey, we'll take it. We'll take it, dude.
Yeah, hey, all power to Laker fans. That's why I do believe, and it hurts me to say this, being a Celtics fan, that you guys are poised to, have the best chance to win a championship this year and to go back to back. KD and Kyrie are looking good themselves, but that's a different story. But going against this Clippers matchup, I mean, if we looked at preseason basketball, you guys have another gem in Horton Tucker. He was playing phenomenal, and I was like, he can possibly take away minutes from Kuzma. And I know a lot of Laker fans. Here's the thing about Laker fans: you guys love to support the team, but also slander the team at the same time. And I think it's hilarious, right?
It's a beautiful relationship, man.
Yeah. And like, I'm like, all these Twitter accounts, like Lake Show Yo and all them, like, you know, but when they get a chance to slander Kuzma, they do it. And he sees all that, you know. He had that Puma commercial.
But then he'll drop 30 and we're like, Kuz is the GOAT.
No, for real. Yeah. So like, y'all switch up, but you know, that's what comes, you know, like this type of fan base expects high standards from, you know, one of the best franchises in the league, because it's the Lakers and Celtics right there in championships. But yeah, just, you know, going against or facing this Clipper team in opening night, I have a lot of faith in Paul George, but it's just like, you know, he was talking about like, I'm back with my old trainer from my MVP candidate season and everything, blah blah blah, and I'm like, he's been talking so much through these past few seasons that like, how much do I want to believe him and how much can I believe him? Kawhi Leonard, you know, he's a very quiet leader, which I don't think is good. You know, I think he needs to learn to be vocal with his team.
Those two words don't go hand in hand.
No, yeah, they do not go hand in hand. And also, I still think to this day, it was not Doc Rivers' fault that they lost a 3-1 lead to the Nuggets. And to let go of Doc Rivers, he was such a glue for that team that they're going to miss that this season. But to have Tyronn Lue now, I know he has championship pedigree, but going against his Lakers squad that's so assembled, they're kind of like the Avengers, you know? Like, it's so incredible to see. And Frank Vogel, now with the championship under his belt, he had success too, you know, in his Pacers days with the up-and-coming Paul George. So he knows what it means to, like, mold players like, you know, Caruso, Horton, Tucker that are coming off the bench and making their own. So I expect the Lakers to win opening night. So kudos to you guys. Do I expect them to be, you know, one of the top contenders in the West? Of course I do. And for the Clippers is, yeah, like, to quote, you know, Jerry West, they're a shit show, but you're not going against them. So I want to see what happens with them, but I want to get your guys' thoughts on that as well.
I mean, quickly, I'm looking at the matchup right now, and I think it's just the game 1 of 72 is always so
weird,
kind of blah to me. It's weird. It's like, yes, you want to establish that you are the team to beat in the West, and you don't want any sort of weakness to show. But it's, you know, 1 of 72, dude. Like, you can absolutely go on a run at the end of the year. The Lakers are coming off a championship. I think they'll probably be a little hungover, quote unquote, hungover from that. So I think they win, but like, it's not going to be as dominant as we probably think it's going to be. Just because, you know, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George now have a chip on their shoulder. I think they're going to really take it to the Lakers. And it's really whether the Lakers can handle the pressure within the first quarter. It'll show me a lot about that game. But right now, I'm going to say the Lakers probably win by 2.
So you guys both said something interesting. Two rare statements that we haven't heard, or, you know, we rarely hear. Dan, you said game 1 of 72. Like, usually we're used to an 82 game season, and now It's like 72. Henry, you said, I believe in Paul George. I haven't heard anyone say that lately, so that was a very rare statement.
I want to believe. Keyword.
So last year, the last year the Clippers won this game on opening night, and, you know, Lake Show, we were all annoyed, we were mad because, you know, this was they created this whole rivalry and, you know, this hype around the game, and obviously we wanted to come out and set the tone, right? Because it's Los Angeles has always been a Laker town. Lakers lose, you know, I think they lost the next game after that too, even though they fought back, and then it wasn't until like the third and fourth game where the Lakers even that regular season series. But Lakers got nothing to prove in this opening night. Like, they're the defending champs. Like, do they want to win? Of course. You know, you always play to win the game and whatnot. But I think the new Lakers guys, like, I think Montrez is going to be coming out with that energy like he always does. Schroeder's probably excited. Gasol, THT, you know, those guys. But, like, you know, LeBron and AD they'll be playing, of course, and like they'll maybe in like even like limited minutes. I think this might be like a career year low for LeBron in regards to minutes. He's coming off a season in which he already saw, like, you know, the lowest minutes of his career, and I think it'll dip down even more, which is great. You know, LeBron's going to play 25 minutes a game throughout the regular season, and we'll still probably get the number 1 seed like easily, you know. But like you said, Dan, like the Clippers have more of a chip on their shoulder, you know, because they're going to be playing against the defending champs. And I think the Lakers win. Will it be a blowout? No way. Just because the Clippers are still a talented team. I think the Lakers will win by like somewhere between 8 to 10 points.
Gotcha. Yeah, let's move on quickly because we're running out of time. But we got the Warriors Nets in the next game. We got Steph Curry coming back, James Wiseman debut, Andrew Wiggins being the third star maybe, and then we got Kyrie and KD kind of playing their first games together. Can they I'll ask you each one question. Henry, do you think that Steph Curry can carry this team without Klay Thompson?
He can carry the team, yes, but only to an extent. And I hope he was my number one pick for MVP last season before his hand injury. And, this season with Luka coming up, who's my number one pick as MVP, I can see Steph Curry being an MVP candidate. But, you look at the roster and Andrew Wiggins has been very stagnant, these past few years. Kelly Oubre Jr. has been coming on his own. But if that's your second best player on the Warriors, then he's going to have to do a lot of carrying. So to carry him to the playoffs, yes, far, I got to see that, what he can do.
Gotcha. And Sandeep, do you think that KD and Kyrie can coexist?
Yeah, I do. I think, that's why they decided to come to Brooklyn together, is because they already had some chemistry from playing Team USA together. That's where their bond kind of started. And since then they've been talking about hey, we got to team up one day, because they both love each other's games and they respect each other on and off the court. They're two of the best hoopers in the game. They're also two of the weirdest guys in all of pro sports. So they mesh together really well. And I think it'll work. Like I said, they're both great one-on-one players. And I think they're going to make it work. They know they got a chance to make a push to win the East and, maybe get to the finals this year.
Yeah, and maybe if Kyrie has an effect on Kevin, they'll both hate on the media as much as Kyrie does.
Oh God!
But
yeah.
We'll call them the sage bros.
Yeah,
we'll call them the sage bros.
Yeah, exactly. We'll save that little roasting for later. But looks like we ran out of time, guys. All right, folks, that's it. First episode of 3 in the Key is over. Thank you for listening. Be sure to look at our work on finebet.com and look for this 3 in the Key live stream in the future.